enough these air defense systems. And as a result, the energy infrastructure, people, civilians are without electricity, without light, without energy, without heating. So we really need more air defense systems and to protect our civilians and to survive the winter.
Pro-Ukraine protesters gathering outside of NATO headquarters in Brussels. They are asking for more help in the wake of continued Russian attacks on critical infrastructure. All of this coming as Ukrainian officials say that Russian attacks have damaged more than 700 critical infrastructure facilities in the country since February, when the invasion began. Joining us now to talk more about the infrastructure attacks, national security and political analyst Paul Rieckhoff. Paul, good to see you this morning. I don't know if you heard part of my conversation with Maria Shuvalova a moment ago, but she said, we don't need blankets, we need justice. She's in a hoodie, she's cold, she's in the dark, and the frustrations are high. Their resilience is as well. But what do you make of the status of the Ukrainian people right now as these Russian attacks continue?
Well, I did hear that conversation, Lauren. I think Maria's perspective should be sobering for Americans. You know, we spent the last week celebrating Thanksgiving, spending time with our families, watching football, and most of Ukraine spent it in the dark, hoping that missiles didn't land on their families and kill their children. I think there has to be kind of a level setting constantly with the American people and with NATO to remind them just how bad it is in Ukraine. After 9 months, I think it's easy for us to be desensitized or to be focused on other things or look inward here at home. But we've got to remember this is terror for the Ukrainian people every single day. And now I think there are rightfully calls to name Russia a terrorist state. That's happening in Europe. There are demands for NATO and the U.S. to do the same. We have to think back to maybe after 9/11, how we felt after the towers went down, after the Pentagon was hit. How did we feel when we were living in fear constantly about the next attack from above? And I think that's why the Ukrainians are right and smart to continue to call for air defense. They need the skies shut down. And until they are, they and their children are going to be living in terror.
What specific type of equipment, when you talk about air defense, do they need most, and how would it apply and how much would help?
I think now that the calls have centered around Patriot missile batteries, and I think that's right. I'm surprised we haven't done it already. We've done it to other allies like Israel and others in the past. I think most folks probably remember Patriot missile batteries from the Gulf War time when we were shooting down Scud missiles. But that's what we need is Patriot missile batteries overhead. I also support more training of Ukrainian pilots and getting them as many air assets, fighter planes that we can. I know folks are afraid that things may bleed over or escalate, but as we saw in the last couple of weeks with the scare around Poland, they could bleed over anyway. And Putin has shown that he will escalate anyway. So the question now for NATO and especially for the U.S. is how many civilians are acceptable for us to die? Because they keep dying every single day that we don't shut down the skies. We have to give the Ukrainians, in my view, everything they asked for. Of course, we need accountability. Of course, we need congressional oversight. But this is terror for them every day, and winter will be very hard, especially without any power and heat. And just imagine what it was like for us in this country after there have been hurricanes and other natural disasters. It's a natural disaster for Ukraine every single day.
A lot of implications here, but what is the biggest reason that you think that the skies are not being shut down, that the U.S. and NATO allies are not taking that step?
Politics. It's always about politics. I think there are plenty of politicians who are trying to gauge their popularity ratings. I think there are some folks who are always worried about escalation. And I think, unfortunately, in the U.S. now, we see a rise in division between the parties. Ukraine should not be a partisan issue, but now we've seen lines being drawn between the Republicans and Democrats. For the most part, there's been strong bipartisan support and support for increased funding. But you hear folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene on the extreme fringes of the party and the Republican side saying we want to cut off funding, we want to shut it all off. You know, that talk is dangerous in my view. It hurts our national security. It worries the people in Ukraine that when a new Congress comes in, they'll pull the rug out from under them. So I think we've got to continue with the steady course. I think President Biden has the right kind of messages. We have the right kind of a coalition, but we need to dial it up, especially as the winter comes and the casualties mount. We've got to prepare Ukraine, not just not to lose, but to win. They can win this and they can turn the tide and we can have a peaceful, stable, strong Ukraine in just a few years. But we've got to keep the pedal down. We've got to give them what they need. And that means closing the skies down so children stop dying.
There are many who agree oversight over U.S. assistance in Ukraine is needed. What do you think is a reasonable approach to accountability as we do provide more funding, more humanitarian aid, more weaponry?
I'm encouraged that the conversation is being led in part by veterans, post 9/11 veterans. You've got Mike Waltz, who's a Republican from Florida, and you've got Jason Crow, who's a Democrat from Colorado. They're both combat veterans, special forces backgrounds. I think it's about time we've had our veterans leading these conversations in Congress and at the Pentagon. Oversight is necessary. We need to know where things are going. We need to keep track of them. We need to be predictive. And we also need to replenish our own stockpiles so we're prepared for whatever could come down the pipe. So I think so far, the approach has been reasonable, but it has to be about accountability. It has to be about learning for our military and our logistical chains, and not just about assuming that the Ukrainians are up to something nefarious. They've been a great partner. They've been great allies. And we need to continue to give them the support. But the American taxpayer also deserves a degree of oversight. So I think there's a reasonable, moderate way for Congress to move forward on this, because we're in for a long fight. So we've got to prepare for oversight, money, and leadership for probably many years to come.
Maria was a perfect example of what they're going through in terms of Putin and Russian forces weaponizing winter. They're in the cold, they're in the dark, they have a lack of a water supply. Communication is a challenge, not just for civilians, but for the military. What more would you like to see from the U.S. and NATO forces to hold Russia accountable for using a strategy to target civilians in this way with infrastructure, to hold those forces accountable?
Well, in my view, and I think in the view of many of others, especially in Ukraine, these are the tactics of terrorists. And I think we need to start treating Russia like the terrorist state that it is. We need to understand that this is a desperate but effective measure from Putin to try to wear down the Ukrainian people. He wants to starve them. He wants to weaken them. He wants to freeze them. And this is what he does because this is a weapon in his disposal. He can use his artillery. He can target infrastructure. And so far, there are really no repercussions. So we need to find any sanctions we can to strangle Russia. I think we need to hit them harder on the ground and across any battlefield spaces that we can. And we can also be creative. Maria mentioned Starlink. Well, Elon Musk, the billionaire, has been playing games with Starlink. He could definitely afford to send more Ukrainian Starlink and stop messing around with Twitter. So I think there's more the American people can do. There's more the private sector can do to just help them stay warm. Think about what we would need after a disaster like this, because disaster is their new normal. And around the holiday times especially, I hope that Americans will support Ukrainian charities, support humanitarian organizations, and keep them in mind.
Yeah, and keep focusing on the situation. Paul, always appreciate your time and your perspective. Thank you.
Anytime, Money. Thank you.
And stay right there. Much more News Nation Live right after the break.